Thank you very much for staying. Welcome back to the marketplace. Now, government is planning to raise 17 billion cedis more this third quarter of the year for its operational reasons. Now, George Riafe tells us whether this particular move is going to add up to the national debt stock or never.
The calendar shows that there will be two separate 3-year bonds that will be issued during the third quarter of this year. The first will be in July to raise 300 million cedis, whilst the second would happen in September, targeting 500 million cedis. 1 billion cedis and 500 million cedis will be secured through 5-year bonds in July. Government is also planning to issue a 15-year bond to raise 2.6 billion Ghana cedis in August. All these long-dated bonds will be sold in the third quarter of this year. However, there are other short-dated bonds and treasury bills that would also be sold from July to September this year. Out of the 17.4 billion cedis being raised, 14.1 billion cedis would deal with debts that are maturing, or call it rollover maturities, whilst the remaining 3.2 billion cedis will be used to handle government's own financial needs. So from January to September this year, government is planning to raise 57 billion Ghana cedis. Persons close to government say only 13.1 billion cedis can be described as fresh funds being raised to deal with its own operations. However, some have also argued that if the economy does not expand, then this could obviously increase the public debt. On the issuance calendar, it is clear the cost of raising these bonds are reducing, resulting in government raising some cheap funds to settle expensive bonds that were sold in previous years.
And that was a business desk report by George Riafe. Moving on, financial analyst Charles Mensah has warned the Bank of Ghana to stay away from the practice of supporting weaker banks in the country. He said the situation where collapsing banks run to the central bank to seek bailout will ruin the country's banking industry. He was of the view that the best approach for banks to remain strong is to merge with stronger ones to continue to stay in business and have more funds to secure capital-intensive projects. There's more in this report.
The Bank of Ghana is yet to come up with a new minimum requirement for commercial banks. There is, however, some apprehension in the industry as some banks fear fold-ups because of their precarious financial situation. Joy Business has gathered that some commercial banks are even struggling to remain in business due to the decision by government to increase the capital requirement. So far, out of 33 universal banks in the country, about 9 of them have their recapitalization plan rejected by the central bank following their inability to meet certain criteria. In an interview with Joy Business on the issue, Charles Mensah thinks banks which might not be able to meet the new capital requirement should be allowed to go into mergers or acquisitions.
This time round, I'm going to beg Bank of Ghana, don't go in there and go and bail in the bank out like we had the FinSap, where all the debts of the bank were transferred to Bank of Ghana, and then we basically help the banks. We won't do that again. If you don't perform well, if you don't train your people, and the bank is going down, allow the bank to go down.
Let me point you to on that. Why don't you think the Bank of Ghana shouldn't build banks? Because they're in the country with us, they are doing business with us, and they are collapsing. If there's that time that we need to build them out, why not?
We are not bailing them out. When they make profits and they are sharing the dividends, they don't pay some to Bank of Ghana.
At least we are the regulator. We are regulating them. So
no, we are not bailing. We are regulators. We are not bailers. So we are not supposed to bail them again.
He therefore thinks there are too many banks for a country like Ghana.
That's the key thing. We are not supposed to bail them again. And if any managing director or any management team runs a bank down, you should be punished. 5 years, you are not getting any appointment. You see, these are the things that we should be doing. That will not send certain signals that if I mess up a bank, there's no way I can get another bank appointment after 5 years. When you begin to see this, and this can reflect in the policies. Because look, if anybody wants to be appointed as a bank managing director, the things that you go through, the rigmarole of text, they go through, they check everything. When they go and they don't perform, and people put pressure, in no time, then Bank of Ghana and then people, general public and all those, oh, they are here, we have to go and bail them out and also. Right now, nobody should bail anybody out. Okay. We are a small country. We have well over 27 banks. 33, so I've lost count. And I think that we shouldn't even encourage certain things. If you cannot meet a threshold by a certain date, please speak to your other bankers and begin to have banks merging.
The Bank of Ghana has, however, indicated that the recapitalization review will be rolled out before the end of the year.
Now, senior economist at the University of Ghana Economics Department, Dr. Eric Osei-Sibe, is backing decision by government to review the 5-year national export strategy. According to him, the review is necessary following the inability of the Ghana Export Promotion Authority to implement the previous strategy due to some technical challenges. Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Carlos Ahenkra, had earlier disclosed to Joy Business government has begun plans to review the national export strategy to fit in with the new administration's export and industrialization agenda. Expressing his views on the development, Dr. Eric Osei-Sibe tells Joy Business the review is timely.
Making sure that we have affordable financing for our exports. Our exports are much aware, much well educated on phytosanitary conditions, how to meet the global standard, hygiene standards, and all of that, and also what kind of market to send what. So if we are not able to do that, we'll always be where we are.
Once we are looking at a very strong, export market. Now, it's been 3 years since it's been ratified, but we have not been able to implement it fully, and we are targeting $5 billion import revenue. Is it a prudent, measure for government to say, I'm going to look at it and review it?
Yes, in fact, I think the whole idea was the implementation issues. The resources that were allocated for doing the various action plan were not there. Okay, so it lacked the necessary input and resources for implementation. And so now the whole national export strategy has been repackaged. So now the implementation have been shifted from 2013 to 2018 to 2016. Now it's from 2016 to 2020. That is now the new implementation.
Okay, so do we still have the $5 billion target?
Yeah, so now we still have the $5 billion, and we still have the 5 years to achieve that. So what the current government is seeking to do is to how to review the implementation plan and the strategy to align it with the new government initiatives. Government definitely have identified certain key products that is going to support, the industrialization drive. How will the national export strategy feed into that? I think it's very important that review is undertaken.
Is it not going to have any implications to our various, markets, like the previous treaties and agreements that we have with other markets?
No, this is our internal trade policy. It's not a regional trade policy, it's an internal one. So it definitely will not have any conflicts with any of such regional agreement, not even with ECOWAS, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
This is on the marketplace. Let's now shift the attention to the downstream petroleum sector, where the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, Duncan Amoah, is hinting of another fuel contamination controversy, this time at the National Refinery, Tor. This comes in the wake of a sale of significant amounts of contaminated fuel by BOST to Movimpina and Soup Oil. An 8-member committee is currently investigating BOST's controversial sale of the 5 million litres of fuel contaminated and to determine other circumstances that led to the situation. But in an interview with Joy Business, Duncan Amoah said a similar situation also exists at the Tema Oil Refinery.
We would want to see people not only named and shamed, but we want to see prosecutions so that for tomorrow, anybody intending to sell Ghana's oil cheap, downgrade or destroy the product and sell cheap, will be forewarned, because there's a precedent where some engaged in that and were punished. Unfortunately, we are not seeing any of that today, and I can safely put on record that a similar cartel operates also in Tor, and that probably will be coming up in the next couple of days. It's the same situation where today we are talking of slop, we are talking of sludge, contaminated. BOST will sell, slop, sledge, tar is selling, standard operating procedures. In fact, there's something we call procedure for disposal. If there's even a sledge or slop, there has to be a procedure for disposal. That must be clearly captured by the company intending to do business with tar or bust. That must also be backed by an EPA certification or license that says we know this company has ABC facility to be able to hold and dispose of products to this tune. Unfortunately, that is not being used in the country because some people's interest would supersede what the regulations say. Standard disposal procedure is not even being adhered to today. And so we are discussing bust, but tar is also in the offing and will be discussed accordingly in the coming days.
All right, let's now get on the phone lines now and speak once again with Duncan Amwa for some more clarification on this particular development. Good afternoon and welcome to the marketplace, Duncan. Now, on what basis are you making this current allegation, if I would say?
I can confirm that quite a significant amount of fuel called slop has equally been sold by the Tema Oil Refinery to companies equally unlicensed, and one still ends up wondering, as a consumer, if indeed these products do not end up on the market. Our little checks further reveal that the boss product, over 300,000 of it ended up on the Ghanaian market. But when the issue broke out, and in order to be able to do a quick cover-up, some products have been, quarantined somewhere and it's being mentioned as the original product. We challenge every single report today that would attempt to link the two products. What is in Zoop oil tanks, what is in Boss Tank 121. We believe that indeed the product has gone out. Some tank yards in Tema that clearly sold some are still operational. Unfortunately, it is not an isolated instance where only Boss has sold bad product recklessly. Tor equally has done some amount of slop. I should be quick to clarify that what Tor has sold out there this year alone is nothing contaminated. But again, the volumes and the quantities we talk about in terms of slop trading, even at Tema Oil Refinery, is equally alarming, and for which the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers join the well-meaning Ghanaians, several millions, who are asking for an external independent probe in the activities of these companies downstream, because
now, Duncan, for the
benefit today is a bit challenging.
All right, now for the benefit of those who may not understand the difference between slop and contaminated fuel, what is the major difference, and how much or what quantity has not, do you think has gone out of
Emmanuel, when you talk of slop sledge, these are residual sediments that will continue to be with any company that holds and store fuel. In fact, if you have algae that eats between the humidity and the product, that space, the algae dropping will continue to settle at the base of the tank. And so you will continue to create slop or sledge so long as you transmit and you store products, petroleum products for sale. So that is unavoidable, Emmanuel.
Yeah, but that in itself is not contaminated. If you're saying that
it's not contaminated, no. Yeah. It's not contaminated, no. The difference is that while sledge and slop continues to be residual products, okay, of storing petroleum, contaminated normally arises out of negligence. And that is why the Boss issue has been a very serious issue that surprisingly some section is trying everything necessary to cover, although I have indicated that 300,000 liters is known to have gone out there to the open market. And so indeed, whilst we talk about contaminated products and how to dispose them or what to do with contaminated products, we are equally saying that we should also take a very good look at sledge and slop, which comes naturally to Bost, Tor, the other petroleum storage facilities. They would definitely generate these volumes of sledge slop. But how would they dispose them? That is equally of value of interest to the Ghanaian consumer, because at the end, if these products finds its way onto the market, like has been done in recent past, in recent times, then clearly all of us in the country ought to be worried how contaminated and sledge, slop, bad products are being disposed in this country.
All right, now, has the chamber drawn the attention of the regulator to this particular development at all?
It will beg the question as to whether the regulator is indeed not even aware. The regulator knows very well what it means to have contaminated products, the standard remedial action necessary. And so when you hear people talk about no wrongdoing on
Hello, Duncan.
The downstream too well, if they did, they will understand that 5 million liters is an awful lot to just dispose of when you can safely and simply remedy or clean the product so as not to endanger the public. Unfortunately, Bost decided to do the rather negligent bit. And as it stands now, we will call on the president to talk about this issue openly and order an independent external probe into the activities of Bost, the NPA itself, the ministry, Tema Oil Refinery, so that consumers can have some peace of mind in this country. In the absence of that, I'm sure what others have gone to court already to seek, several others will equally follow, because Bost clearly have been negligent to 5 million liter tune, and that is unacceptable.
All right, Duncan, so as a matter of fact, I would like to point it out here that the contaminated oil cannot be associated with toll, but rather sledge or slop, right?
Yes, that is exactly what I indicated. Contaminated is negligence, but slop, sledge will come, naturally, so long as you handle and store products. The two will have to be looked at coterminously, so that you don't deal with contaminated today. Tomorrow, there's no slop getting out there onto the market. We need to address them now, so as to ensure the integrity of products that the consumer is taking into his tanks in Ghana.
Thanks for your time, Duncan Amwa. Duncan Amwa is the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, Ghana. Now, moving on to the upstream sector this time, lead operator of the Sankofa Ginyami oil field, ENI, says it has instituted measures to avoid challenges encountered by managers of the Jubilee and 10 projects. The two major fields, since it started production, have experienced some challenges, resulting in several shutdowns of the Jubilee FPSO. There are fears the Sankofa oil and gas field could also encounter similar circumstances, especially when they actually started production 3 months ahead of schedule. Group Chief Executive of ENI, Claudio Descalzi, tells Joy Business the project would not encounter any such problems.
I think that the lesson is not just Jubilee. We are the first operator in Africa. We produce about more than 1 million barrels per day in Africa, and we operate 2.7 billion barrels per day in Africa. We started in Africa in the 50s. I spent more than 18 years in Africa, and I'm actually the Congolese passport, so I'm African as well. My family is African. I think that, you have to judge a project from the very beginning. What happened for this project? We put in place a really huge project. Until now, we had 18 million man-hours for the development construction, plus 8 million man-hours for their management. So we account for, the project accounts for more than 26 million hours. And when you look at the LTI, that is the HSE parameter, is very important parameter because it's the incident rate. The incident rate per million of hours worked for Sankofa is 0. So you can imagine a project that has a record man-hour, 26 million hours without one incident. The LTI is 0, and that is one answer. When there is efficiency in HEC means that there is efficiency in the operations, and that is a must. And also how the project has been conceived and practically zero flaring is also you look at the HSC, but also environment. So there is no environmental impact. So there is no gas that is burned. So I think that is a good beginning. Clearly, operations are complex. We have to be focused, and meantime we have to develop the local content and put local people to follow up and grow. So it's a big project.
All right, now still on Marketplace. Now let's do some sports. Now, Bank of Africa are the new winners of the football competition organized at the Joy Business Joy Sports Invitational Tournament over the weekend. The event is part of activities leading up to this year's edition of the Vodafone Ghana Banking Awards. Sheila Tamaklu was there and has this report.
It was an euphoric and charged atmosphere at the sporting events, which saw 18 banks compete in various sports disciplines. First Atlantic Bank, the title holders of the football competition, failed to make it to the final. Bank of Africa rather beat ADB by a 0-0 to pick the trophy.
It reinforces what our brand beliefs are, that as a team, we're close together as a bank, we're close together as a team, we're close together, and as a partner, we are there to serve our customers and serve our customers' needs.
GN Bank picked 2 trophies, volleyball and table tennis, whilst NIB won in the female penalty shootout.
So NIB here with me, and the women's penalty, they took it. So next year, I would like you to see more from you.
Oh, we'll be here next week with more film. We are coming with more film this year. We will return the cup for NIB for next year.
Okay, so what do you make of the event in general?
It's a very great event. We are so grateful that you organize it for us. It's very good. It brings us together, family here. So happy.
Philip Otimensa of Omni Bank also won in the CEO Center for Goal category. HFC won the 100 meters men's race, but Carl Bank stole the show in the track events to win the 4x100 meter relay as well as 50 meter women race. For the bankers, this was a good break from the usual corporate activities.
For us, it means a lot to us. It's an opportunity for us to exercise ourselves and also meet other banks, interact. And they always say, a healthy body gives a healthy mind for our work.
The stress of the corporate world is quite high, and it often has a toll on our staff. So coming out to participate in this event releases the stress and makes us get to know ourselves better, get to see people in the other banks. We are able to network and get to know more people.
The event was obviously a good warm-up for the banks ahead of the banking awards. And the big question is, could these wins on the field reflect at the awards night this Saturday, 15th of July?
Second edition of the Joy Sports Invitation has come to an end, with Bank of Africa emerging as the top winners. For those of you who missed that, well, next year we hope you're going to make it here. Reporting for Joy Business is Sheila Tamaklo from the University of Ghana campus.
All work and no play, they say, makes Jack a dull boy. Let's now get some stock market news, and standing by is our analyst, Aseya Kotia of Nordia Capital, who is going to bring us some updates. But before then, this week, SCB leads the charge for a bullish week on the capital market. Cocoa is starting the week on a positive note, and the currency market is expected to be relatively stable during the week. Let's now hook up with Aseya Kotia for the details. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the marketplace.
Good afternoon.
All right, so quickly, give us a recap of last Friday's market, how it ended and how it opened this morning.
Okay, last week the market ended on a high note. We had a total of 8 price gainers for the week. That's last trading week. And we had 1 price dip. That is in Guinness Ghana Brew Limited. And however, total trade volume and value dipped quite significantly. That's compared to the previous week. We had total trade volumes dipping by about 62%. And the trade values dipping about 90%.
All right, so how did it open today, and what are we expected? What should investments look out for?
Okay, investors should look at a very good week this week. First of all, we have 5 trading weeks to trade stocks as compared to the previous 2 weeks that had 4 trading weeks. Already we have 5 price appreciations and 1 price loss. Standard Chartered Bank ended the week last week and also started this week on a very good note, gaining by as much as 18 pesos so far. And the market hasn't closed at all, anywhere near closing. And we still have a lot of bids pouring in for the banking stocks. You have Goel also second on the chart in terms of price gains, has gained 5 pesos so far. Also, so far putting up a good show. So we're expecting a very good week, today being an example. I'm sure trade volumes and values will also be much better than we saw last week.
Any positive note for Fan Milk?
Yes, Fan Milk also had, the previous 2 weeks, they had a dominance on the market in terms of volume. Last week was relatively, more quiet compared to the previous week, but it's still fairly priced. You still have a lot of demand as compared to the supply on the market. So I'm expecting Fan Milk to also represent on the price changes, the price changing list. Positive for that matter. However, I don't expect the kind of volumes that we saw that dominated the market with Farm Milk 2 weeks ago. But Farm Milk is also expected to make a case for the food and beverage stocks.
All right, so we're also hearing that cocoa is starting the week on a positive note. How do you explain that?
Yes, cocoa, thankfully, we are more of an upbeat on cocoa compared to how the 3 major trading commodities for Ghana ended the previous week. Cocoa is so far trading at about $1,895, that's per metric ton, gaining as much as $23 so far. There seems to be some demand coming through for the commodity, and if this continues, then this week would be a good one for the agro commodity or the agro stock. Nonetheless, crude oil and gold seem to be suffering also, continuing from where they left off last week. As we speak, crude oil has dipped a bit by 49 cents and is trading about $46 per barrel. And gold is trading currently about $1,211 per ounce. That's losing about $1.60. We are hopeful, however, that some demand will come through for these 2 commodities that should reflect positively on the national balance sheet.
What should we expect on the currency markets? The Ghana cedi's performance as against the other important trading currencies.
All right, the cedi lost grounds last week against the dollar and the euro and gained marginally against the pound. However, I'm expecting a better show this week. We are in July, we are the 2nd week in July. And first of all, we are expecting the inflow from IMF, over $100 million. That will give us some level of stability. Also, sometime last week, we realized that Moody's gave a positive outlook, a B3 positive or stable outlook, as against a negative one that they previously had. That should increase the sentiments from foreign investors into the country. So I'm expecting even more participation when it comes to our treasury issues, which should give us some dollars. So I'm expecting the cedi to be relatively stable against the US dollar. Against the euro and the pound, however, I think early days yet. We'll just wait for the next couple of days to see how the cedi fares.
All right, many thanks for your time, Aseya Kotia, and he is from Nordia Capital, a stock market analyst from Nordia Capital. Let's now take a break quickly for investment tip from Daphne Finance.
Investment Tips is brought to you by Daphne Finance, deposits, investments, borrowings, and advisory.
Investment objective, the risk question. What are the risk expectations? That is, how much money, including the principal, are you willing and able to lose? What are the risk tolerance levels? The extent to which an investor is risk averse. What is a risk quantification level? This is a percentum of income or principal an investor is willing to lose. Risk return trade-off. Higher risk acceptance goes with higher returns. The reverse is also true.
Investment Tips was brought to you by Daphne Finance, deposits, investments, borrowings, and advisory.
And that will be it for this afternoon's edition of The Marketplace. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Emmanuel Apwaji. Let's meet again same time tomorrow. Good afternoon.